All right, I'm back here on another Zoomed In, and I'm joined by clinical assistant professor Chris Lebens from our sport management program here at the Washington State University College of Education. Chris, thanks for joining me, first of all. And we're going to talk about the sport management capstone courses. So the news, of course, was just this last week. We had a story hit the social media, and then this week we had the WSU News, the WSU Insider, published a story about a sport management group of students who did their capstone project, and they raised more than $2,200 for the Lauren McCluskey Foundation, which was pretty cool. So this is not the first time that we've had a really great group of students do some cool work. So I definitely want to hit the news angle and talk about this one group, but let's go back first and let's talk about what is the purpose of this capstone course. What kind of projects do they do in general? And then we'll talk about this specific project, and then we'll talk about some of the highlights or the best memories you have from the past projects in past years. So yeah, tell me about this capstone.
Well, I mean, the capstone class is that in and of itself. It's a capstone, right, for the program. So we're looking at it's not as much of an active teaching course, right, and as an active lecturing course. It's a culmination, right? You're bringing in everything you've learned in the program, and the way we do it in sport management is it's actualization as far as it can get. Your requirement is to create a sport event. We've taught you everything you need to know about sport management. Now manage some sports, okay? And we do it from a philanthropic side because I think that first of all, it meets the university's mission as far as we're pushing out and doing local philanthropic work. Secondly, every sport industry out there is doing philanthropic work, and it's not taught elsewhere in the program. So we use this class as a place to teach that. So the goal is to plan and execute a sporting event. Now, it is a class, right? So planning and executing and failing and having a terrible event is actually a learning process, right?
Right. So, and that's really important because you've talked to me about that before, is there's so many components to this, whether it's legal or marketing or logistics and operations, things like that, that they're not graded solely on how much money did I raise for this philanthropic effort, but what did I learn through this process? How can I tie this back to the things that I've learned before? And so I know you've told me that before, and that always stood with me because some events raise a lot of money and some don't tend to raise a lot of money. You've seen it all.
Well, and you're dealing with students that have come to WSU and that have pursued a sport management degree. They're sport-minded people. Okay, sport-minded people have some very similar traits, right? And one of those traits is competitive drive, right? You're a sport-minded person. I'm a sport-minded person. It's always about winning. And it's actually difficult to do in this class to go ahead and say, hey, remember, it's not about who makes the most. It's not about who gets the most people to attend. It's who actually made a plan and executed it to a T. But, like you said, we've had some extremely successful events, and this being a very awkward semester, we had one that was amazing. So,
yeah. So let's talk about this specific fun run. The plan was to host this 5K, and the money was going to be raised through an auction as well as the entry fees for the runners. But because of COVID-19, then this group had to modify and they had to do it as a virtual 5K. So talk about the actual event that they hosted.
So on day one, the plan was to do a McCluskey 5K. The students were very tied. The students in the group of the class, I actually had five events that were going to happen, 4 of which got canceled due to COVID-19. Actually, all 5 got canceled due to COVID-19. And then I had some students that just pulled me to the side and said, well, we don't want to stop. Which is great. I love it. And I think 3 times throughout the process, I tried to talk them into stopping, but then they came back with me with, but this is a good idea. And so I'm like, okay, keep going. Their idea was a fun run, and they were very passionate about McCluskey. I mean, Lauren's family's here in Pullman. Lauren grew up in Pullman. One of the leaders of the group's a track and field athlete, very well tied with the Utah State program where Lauren went. And so it was just, they would not let me tell them, no, you can't raise money for McCluskey this semester. But they let me tell them, no, you can't have a 5K. They organized a great 5K. They worked with the city of Pullman to come up with a great route, keep it local through town, and really kind of help showcase. They wanted to go past local businesses and have businesses outside doing water tables and stuff like that to showcase businesses. They put together a really great community event. And then I said, no. And then the governor said, no. And then I said, you guys, no. And they mentioned virtual. And I originally was apprehensive about that because the idea of going, because they had planned this route, right? So they're still saying, hey, at this time on Saturday, go run this trail. And I said, you guys, that's encouraging people to get out there and do it together. And so I came up with the idea of how about go run post-proof. And that kind of piggybacked off of last year, a year ago, I had my first group in this class try and do a virtual event. And keep in mind, in this program, virtual is not an idea that we have up front. It's been something we've morphed into. So I went and dug into what they had done and shared that with the other students, and we worked together to create this and make this happen as a virtual event. There was the whole fact that there were people that had, when I said, okay, to all the events, it's time to cancel. So call your people, tell them that you're going to refund them unless they want to give the donation, and you'll pass the donation on, no problem. And this group called their people and said, we're going to give you your money back unless you want to have the donation go on. And they're like, yeah, but we still want to run and be on your website. So there was a kind of, this McCluskey Foundation, and of course, the air on campus safety as the goal that we're looking to raise funds for. There's not a more perfect time than right now when it's not safe to be on campus at all, to really focus on campus safety. So yeah, this event, whereas the other events did cancel, and I had to modify the project for it to be a capstone project. And I did for everyone, and they've done a different sort of more of an overlook research based as opposed to the actual doing versus this group that has stuck with that. Again, okay. I'm amazed.
Yeah, no, it was pretty impressive. They did raise a nice little pocket of money there for the McCluskey Foundation, which was good. There's some events stick out in my head as having been very successful, and I don't always know the dollar amount, of course, but over the course of the last X number of years that you've been involved in this program, what are some of the events that stand out? Maybe you could just very quickly touch upon a few of those that you remember.
Well, sport management at Washington State University kind of has a little bit of a hold on an event that started under me in my first semester teaching the class of sport trivia for Team Gleason. And Team Gleason, as of course, Steve Gleason, a Coug alum, Gonzaga Prep alum, a Coug true and true, right, who suffers from ALS. And it's a very easy foundation for the students to buy into because he's a Coug, right? And Cougs help Cougs. So it's really easy. And not to mention the Cougar community. You just say Gleason and they're like, oh, what, Steve, right? And they really get behind it. So a group started doing sport trivia. And, I'm teaching this capstone class. The last thing I want is every semester to have somebody redo what was done last semester. Okay, it's like a bowling tournament. A bowling tournament, yeah, that's a very hard thing to put together. But here in Pullman, you have Zeppos, which has bowling lanes and bowling alley and all the stuff you need. So really, it's not hard to put the bowl part together, but marketing's hard to put together. Sport trivia, on the other hand, there's a trivia night at every bar. These guys are they worked and they started building. And the first year they did sport trivia for Team Gleason, partnering with WSU Team Gleason, a club on campus with engineering and with computer engineering and civil engineering. They teamed with them and they said, let me help you raise money. What do you need money for? And that group, of course, works to put together open source software for people with terminal diseases and or just for accessible technology to people that need it, that can't afford it. And so they need the money to be able to afford it. So we started saying, well, we'll take the we'll take the sports guys, we'll go get all the money, and then we'll give it to you engineers that know how to do something with it. And that started, we raised $2,000. And the next semester, we raised $4,000. One semester, we did actually pull in with in-kind donations over $27,000 for in sport trivia. It was very creatively done. Again, I set the bar based on the last one. So here's what they did. Now yours has to be at least 10 times better. Right?
Yeah, and we had just barely moved to Pullman when the bowling for strikes or whatever it was, scholarship for strike. Yeah, strikes for scholarships. Yeah. Marcus Trufant, came into town and you had him sign your samurai sword.
It's downstairs, Brandon. You give me a
oh, anyway, well, oh well. There was one thing that I will always remember, and it was a speed pitch that was out on the Glen Terrell Mall, and it wasn't so much for the pitch itself, but they did have, whoever was the highest. And Keaton Hyenga, of course, you remember him. He had played a little.
Let's be honest. We got to put the backstory in there about who Keaton is.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so Keaton Hyenga was currently on our basketball team under Ken Bone. Now, background. Keaton, when he graduated high school, accepted a scholarship to come play baseball at WSU. He's always wanted to be a kid. He wanted to be a sport management major at WSU. That's what he wanted to do. Well, he got accepted that scholarship, and then the Kansas City Royals said, nah, dude, come play for us. So he had spent 4 years in the minor leagues for the Royals, and then he was back at WSU, and he was paying for his own school, not on a scholarship, but he asked Ken, can I play? And so he played 6 or 7 dribbles in his career at WSU.
He played into the bench, right?
Well, he went in.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing, man. The one thing he did, he definitely had a nice fastball, and
but the fact was that 3 WSU pitchers pitched before him.
Well, okay, but so that's the
3 baseball team members came up through theirs, and then he walks up, basketball player, just like, yeah, whatever, no warm up, and smoked the world.
Yeah, 92 on the gun. So that's the memory that I have, is that after he had already done that, at some point there was another baseball player that was walking up, and he sees speed pitch, and it's this guy that he was a pitcher. And you should have seen the look on his face was one of, oh, I got this. And he comes up to the table and he said, what's the top? And they said 92. And he just turned around and he walked off.
Keep the dollar.
So, yeah. Keaton really did an amazing job. I don't even know if that was a successful event, but I do remember that. So,
an interesting thing about that event is that's a 2-day event. And we've done that a couple of times where it's, the first idea is to set it up in front of Todd and the Cub. And it's really the appeal to it is, well, let's think about it, Brandon. If you and I were walking by it and there's a guy with a radar gun and a Ted, it's a fast pitch, and then you and me, just as normal guys, sharing a cup of coffee, be like, I can outthrow you. Well, I got 3. All right, that's it, dude. Let's prove it, But then they do it the next day on the steps in front of Beasley at the craft fair on Mom's Weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And who'd have thought moms would want to throw a ball as fast as they can? But the most success that we've had on the fast pitch has always been in between the baseball game and the craft fair.
Oh, wow.
And it's going, I bet your mom can throw faster than you. Tammy Crawford, one of our professors, I think in 2015, won the fastest mom.
That doesn't surprise me. Right.
She swung one in at like 71, just boom! And then it was like all the rest of the moms are like, okay.
I'm out of here.
Pam's an athlete, though. I mean, they're a little bit different. We get a serious athlete coming in there versus just, little league mom.
Right.
That's been very successful. We've had a lot of successful events. Part of what's made the success off of McCluskey is the McCluskey relation.
Mm-hmm.
Another philanthropy that we've worked a lot with, and that touches very close to home to us, is Helinski's Hope. As I know Tyler Helinski, when he took his life. So let's be honest, when he took his life in it was a shock to our entire area, right? Tyler was very well known. Tyler was a sport management major. Immediately, my sport management students the following semester, like, we're raising money for Holinsky. So Holinsky. So we started doing anything we could. We did a 5K for Holinsky, raised a few $1,000s. We've done sport trivia for Holinsky. At one point, we raised $13,000 in one night. We've done a lot for them, but last year I had a group try and do a virtual challenge for Holinsky. You might remember this. It was the 3 for 3 burpee challenge.
Yep.
Tyler's number was 3. So you get on a video, kind of like the ice bucket challenge. Say, hi, I'm here to support Holinsky Foundation. Here's my 3. And you do 3. And we got, let's see, Dean Trevison did it. You know, we had the president, Pat John. We had so many people doing it. But we worked on that. You're doing the research into turning into viral competition. So that, because it's so current in sport management right now. And when I say right now, I mean right now. The only event we made go was virtual, right? We are on NFL Draft Week right now. NFL Draft Week, or NFL Draft is going to be kind of like a Zoom meeting, isn't it? I mean, I know they're going to show it on ESPN, but they're also going to give it to us here, wherever we want it, in a Zoom meeting.
Right.
So that was our first attempt.
First attempt, it was successful. This one was very successful. Yeah, no, I'm really impressed by almost every one of these that I've heard of, and I haven't heard of all the different groups. It impresses me, the thought that goes into these. Just carrying out events can be difficult, and the way the teams work together. That's the point of this, of course. And, you know, I just, the news angle, the reason I wanted to talk to you today was because of the recent virtual 5K that was done. But it's a success. It's been a successful capstone, and I appreciate you joining me and talking about that. Yeah.
You know how passionate, Brandon, you know me personally, and you know how passionate I am about this class and these students and making sure something happens. And it's been an emotional semester for me, having to say, wow, you spent 4 years trying to come up with this big capstone project you're going to do. And then Dad said no, you know, but what I've done with the class this semester, I don't know when we're going to come back to a classroom. So what I've done is I've used this group to help me brainstorm how to prep this in case next semester we're doing it like this again. So that I have 5 events, not just one. The other thing I've done with this semester is the other 4 events that have been planned have been, their assignment has been to so meticulously plan everything that they've given me an entire manual for each one. And when we get students back in the classroom, I'm going to find the students either in a intro class or maybe in a capstone class, and I'm going to take these books and I'm going to say, make this, so that these students get to have that pride, right? One of the things I'm asking them to give me is personal private contact information, so that when I give this to a set of students to do it, so please contact these people. It's their design. So, I mean, definitely, I want to make these things that didn't happen. As well as the virtual McCluskey Run for Campus Safety will be continued next semester. But I'm going to take it out of the capstone class, and I'm actually going to put it into the sport management club and some undergrad students to just keep it running virtually as long as we can.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. Clinical Assistant Professor of Sport Management and crazy loving sports fan, Chris Lebens.
Who needs a haircut, COVID-19?
Who needs a haircut. Chris, we're talking sports here, man. We can't leave this meeting without giving a go Cougs, right?
Go Cougs!
Go Cougs.
Right. Yeah, you know how I roll.